like the frost on a rose. Winter comes for us all. Oh, how nature acquaints us with the nature of patience. Like a seed in the snow, I've been buried to grow, for your promise is loyal. Oh, from seed to sequoia. And I know, though the winter is long, even richer the harvest it brings. Though my waiting prolongs, even greater your promise for me like a seed. I believe that my season will come. Lord, I think of your love like the low winter sun. As I gaze, I am blinded in the light of your brightness. Like a fire to the snow, I'm renewed in your warmth. Melt the ice of this wild soul till the barren is beautiful. And I know, though the winter is long, even richer the harvest it brings. Though my waiting prolongs, even greater you promise to me like a seed. I believe that my season will come. I can see the promise, I can see the future. You're the God of seasons, I'm just in the winter. If all I know of harvest is that it's worth my patience, if you're not done working, then God, I'm not done waiting. You can see my promise, even in the winter. You're the God of greatness, yeah, even in a manger. For all I know of seasons is that you take your time. Could have saved us in a second, instead you sent a child. Oh, though the winter is long, even richer the harvest it brings. Though my waiting prolongs, even greater your promise for me like a seed. I believe that my season will come. When I finally see my tree, I still believe there's a season to come. Like a seed you were sown for the sake of us all. From Bethlehem's soil grew Calvary's sequoia. One of my favorite trips that I've ever been on was a trip to California when I was in high school. My parents, my brother and I, we rented a car and we just drove. We drove along Highway 1, which runs along the Pacific coast of California. We drove from LA to San Francisco. And we had no plans, no itinerary, no expectations. We just drove each day and we found a place to sleep each night. We looked up things to do on our phone along the way, or if we saw a sign for something that looked fun or exciting, we'd pull over and stop. But again, no plans, and it was just one of the most incredible trips that I've ever been on. One of the things that sticks out to me the most, one of the most impactful memories for me, was our time in Sequoia National Park. And I don't know if you've seen a sequoia before, but they're huge. Think of the tallest tree in your backyard or on your street maybe. We've got lots of big trees here in Sugar Land. Maybe the biggest tree you've ever seen, and still look past it, look further again, and the sequoias are somewhere up there. They're enormous, like shockingly huge. And as a kid from Houston, I'd seen skyscrapers that I felt like were this tall and felt like I'd seen big trees in my life, but nothing compared to these trees and just their grandeur. And I remember seeing a sign that kind of connected the dots while we were there and helped me realize that these huge trees that were bigger than I could even imagine had come from a tiny seed. And I know personally that sometimes when I look at things, especially massive things like those sequoia trees or even large bridges, man-made marvels, I don't always think about the process that goes into creating those things or growing those things. And I just sometimes think they've been there forever. But God makes us promises. And sometimes we think kind of along those same lines that when he makes that promise to us, that should just come to fruition in an instant, overnight almost. And it's easy to look at others and see all these things that God has given them and think to ourselves or even question God sometimes and say, why not me, God? Where are my blessings? Where's that spouse you promised me? Where is that job or that promotion that I've worked towards my entire life? Where's my sequoia? And when in reality, we might already have them. We hear a lot about people saying that we just need to wait for blessings to come, when sometimes those blessings are actually seeds that have already been planted in our life and that are just growing. They're in a season of growing. We say that we know that God is true to his word, but we aren't always okay with the process that it takes to get to the fruit. Remember though, we serve a God who isn't afraid to play the long game. I love how the lyrics in the song Seasons that I just sang capture the essence of life that is played out in the seasons. One line in the song says, you could have saved us in a second, but instead you sent a child. Does God have the ability to just plant a forest of already huge trees, sequoias that don't need time to grow? Sure he does. Could he have sent Jesus as a full-grown man? Of course. Most of the time though, God takes his word and he plants it like a seed in our lives. He watches, he waters, he waits for it to grow no matter how slow that process might seem to us. And if we look, we can find examples of this throughout the Bible and even the world around us. Oh, how nature acquaints us with the nature of patience. In case you didn't know, this past Sunday was the first Sunday of Advent, and Advent is often described as a season of waiting. We're waiting and preparing our hearts for Christ to enter the world. A familiar verse in Ecclesiastes 3 says, for everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. The chapter goes on to say that God is able to make everything beautiful in its own season. Now, a cool fact about sequoias, I know we're talking a lot about trees today, but a cool fact about sequoias is that they actually need the harshness of winter in order to grow. The seedling is buried under several feet of snow for most of the winter, and then the tree grows and it thrives. Like a seed in the snow, I've been buried to grow. Have you ever thought that we might actually need the storms of life or the winter seasons in order to grow? If we remain faithful and constant in those seasons, we often emerge with wisdom that can only be discovered in these times of winter. Whether you know it or even believe it, God is loyal, and he is committed to his work within you. He knows the exact timing and the pace that is perfect for you. Rest in his goodness and trust in his providence, and become acquainted with the blessings that come with winter in this waiting time. And whatever season you find yourself right now, whatever season you find yourself in right now, hold fast to the promises of God and continue to do the things that you were created to do. You're alive for such a time as this. You are valuable. You are worthy of God's love. And one day you will see the fruit that comes from the seed that he planted in you. So may you draw near to the Lord in this Advent season. May you prepare your heart and your mind for what he plants in you and plans to do through you. Amen.